let's talk about this. This is the Bish talking about, because here's something else, right? Now, we said this last week. You remember when we say you have to remember what Luxon said, we are going to take care of every single dollar, right? So the idea about doing this referendum and stuff when they've already basically ruled it out, how is that taking care of every single dollar? Because you want people to be able to have their voices heard and then ignore them. You know, so this conversation came up on breakfast this morning, and finally, Chewy, the media is asking about conscience votes, and that comes up in this conversation. Let's have a listen.
We'll have debated a bit and discussion about it. We've made it clear from the National Party point of view we won't be supporting it beyond the first reading, and that's where it lies.
Yeah, that's why everyone
all those people
asking.
coming and submitting to that select committee? What's the point of having all of those politicians sit and hear those submissions? If you say, you know, you're the leading party, your Prime Minister is in charge of this, he needs to show some leadership and say, this is a waste of time, this is a waste of taxpayers' money.
Sometimes there's a value in ventilating issues and having the debate and the discussion. Sometimes there's a value in just the submissions, and you know, look, it's going to go through a process. Let's have the submissions. It's going to go to the committee. It was already started a debate about what the treaty principles are, what necessarily means, what the articles of the treaty are. We're already having that debate. So in that sense, you know, it's a positive thing. But, you know, we're not going to support it anymore because we think ultimately a referendum, which is what David wants, would be, you know, ultimately divisive, and it would be.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So they're now saying again, and because Luxon said it before the election, they're now saying again that a referendum would be divisive.
But, you know, we're not going to support it anymore because we think ultimately a referendum, which is what David wants, would be, you know, ultimately divisive, and it would be a distraction. But, you know, now, we're going to send it to a committee and have
David
a debate.
Seymour's still hanging on the hope that this is going to he's going to change the mind of the government, and he's going to somehow have his way. I mean, otherwise...
We'll get to that next. He is still.
I know David well, and David is a guy he's a eternal optimist about many things, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people like him.
Maybe if you like him so much, you could ask him to stop his bill.
I just want to move to, because I asked this question, Chris, I asked this question of Minister Paul Tucker on Tuesday as well. Do you think that the Prime Minister would consider making this a conscience vote?
No, it's a party issue for National. We're voting on it on a party lines, where it's not a conscience issue for National.
So it's being asked now, yeah? It's being asked, it got asked, and as you heard Jenny May say, it got asked on Tuesday. What happened on Monday, Chewy? Well, on Monday, we're sending this tweet out. Can a journalist with access please ask Luxon, is there any chance the ACT referendum could become a conscience vote? Means Nationals not supporting it, just the MP. Someone needs to ask it. Tova O'Brien, John J. Campbell, Jack Tame, One News, News Hub NZ, Simon B. Wilson. Tuesday, One News asked the question for the first time of anyone. So I am more than happy to take credit for that, but I'm very happy to hear it's now being asked as a question. I've got one more thing to show about this, Cherry, but you jump in, sir. What are your thoughts?
I just want to say something here. Is like the Bish is just saying, hey, look, you know, there's a pressure release in here. It's just letting people debate it, and that's got to be good. No, it's not always good. Sometimes it's just an avenue for someone to inject mistruth and the pretense that everybody has a right to talk about this.
Yeah,
it's not true. Like we haven't had to do this ever. Decades and decades and decades. Like there wasn't a divisive public debate about what the treaty principles were in 1989. There doesn't need to be one now, because not everyone is equipped with the knowledge to put a worthwhile opinion into this. And so it's just a way, just as ACT is doing at the moment, by putting information out there. It's misinformation. It's a twisting of history. You know, you've got those guys. What was it? That pamphlet that was distributed by the New Zealand Herald last week, just really muddying the waters, and people going, "Oh, this looks official, and this is guys is for it, and he's got a Māori name on it, so it can't be racist." You know, that's what we're allowing into our public debate. Poison.
The other thing, and you mentioned it during it, I'll jot it down. We made it clear. This is the line that Luxon's using. We've been very clear for a long time. No, you haven't. The news, both news channels tonight said, quote, yesterday, Christopher Bishop made it clear that. So why they keep saying we've been very clear when you haven't? If you're going to be an honest actor, maybe you should say, well, for clarity, so we can be clear from here on in. Now, this is the problem, Chewy. You just heard the Bish use that same phrasing that was unequivocal, that said we're not going to support it, yada, yada, yada. At a stand-up today, this is what our Hearless leader said.
David Seymour thinks you will change your mind. Is he dreaming?
What I just say to you is I can't be any clearer. Myself, the National Party, my National Party caucus, do not want to support it.
The Prime Minister's hope.
Do not want to support it. We do not want to support it. That is wiggle room again. We all do things
I don't
we
want to take
do
the
not
bins out.
want. Yeah, exactly, but we do it. And I hope, there's no good answer here. Because yesterday he was being clear and deliberately clear, and today he's using words that are relative. We do not want to support it. What that could mean is, but if they force our hand, we might have to. Whereas the Bish this morning and Christopher Luxon kind of circa 24 hours ago were, we are not going to support this. So there's only two possibilities. Well, there's three. The first possibility is he is really terrible at messaging, that he can't think on his feet quickly enough to give a clear answer. The second is he is on purpose muddying the waters because he wants to leave wriggle room. And the third is, as someone pointed out today, maybe both. Chewy?
Yeah. Like, if you're having to say on an almost daily basis, look, I think I've been really clear, then you're not being really clear. Like, every time he does it, I have a flashback to a meeting I had in a former workplace where someone spoke for 45 minutes about this new procedure that was being brought in, and then very confidently said, cool, that should cover it. Any questions? And 50 people put up their hands and he looked like he was going to die. If you are having to every day repeat your message, you are not being clear. If there is a variation in your message over the space of 3 days that is basically, I've said this, I've been very clear. Now I'm saying a slightly different thing to be very clear. And today I'm softening that position by being very clear. It's nonsense. What I'll say to you is this, and then corporate hot air, scrabble letters into a ceiling fan, and we still don't know what the fuck he means.
Yeah.